Welcome, dreamers, to Pindlewood and Fable, a shop unlike any other, where stories don't just unfold, but invite you to step into their world, and where every journey is an opportunity to drift into restful sleep. Tonight's story is about Isabelle's dreamy journey through space. After a visit to the planetarium, Isabelle's imagination takes flight as she soars through the vast, tranquil universe. You'll glide through the starry sky, visiting each planet in our solar system with gentle awe and wonder. With every turn, the peaceful quiet of space envelops you, guiding you through constellations and planets bathed in soft light. Now, let us begin our journey as we always do, by entering through the magical doors of Pindlewood and Fable. Down a quiet alley, just out of sight, there's a little shop that's known only to a select few. It's a shop unlike any other, a shop not for buying, but for dreaming. As you step through the door, you're greeted by the rich scent of aged leather and paper, along with the faintest hint of wood smoke. The air is warm and inviting, with what you realize is the comforting smell of old books. Hundreds of them, their leather bindings well worn with time. Shelves stretch high, lined with tomes of every shape and size, each one whispering of faraway places and forgotten stories. There's a certain magic in the air, as if each book contains a secret just waiting to be told. As you wander further, you notice the shelves aren't just filled with books. There are delicate glass bottles with shimmering contents, their labels handwritten in faded ink, the faintest aroma of dried herbs and lavender mixing with the smell of the leather-bound books. Around a corner, there's a tower of brass-bound chests, each overspilling with the objects housed inside. Around another corner, you spot a collection of antique clocks, their ticking slow and steady, as though time itself moves differently in this place. Small trinkets, old compasses, tiny porcelain animals, and faded maps are scattered in the most unexpected places, waiting to be discovered. Everywhere you look, there's something new to find, a hidden treasure or a forgotten charm, all inviting you to pause and explore. As you venture even deeper into the shop, your eyes are drawn to a cozy nook tucked away between the towering shelves. The faint crackle of a warm fireplace draws you in, and as you approach, you see beside it the largest, most inviting armchair you've ever laid eyes on. A giant, deep green velvet chair, as big as a bed, soft from many years of love, its cushions as soft as clouds. There's even a matching large, plump ottoman pulled up close to rest one's feet. The firelight dances across the chair, its golden glow casting a warm, soothing light over the room. Nestled beside the chair is a basket, overflowing with soft piles of knitted blankets, their earthy colours inviting you to wrap yourself up in their warmth. Plush pillows are stacked high, each one more tempting than the last. You can feel the pull of it, the cozy armchair, the blankets, the fire. Your body begins to relax, and all you want to do is sink into it. You absolutely can't resist. The chair is the most welcoming embrace you've ever felt, a sanctuary from the world. Though the shop is filled with hundreds of treasures waiting to be explored, and each book with a story of its own, the comfort of the chair and the soothing glow of the fire are far too inviting. You curl up, settle back, and allow the warmth of the blankets to surround you, the softness of the chair to cradle you. As you relax, the shop seems to fade away, and a peaceful, calming story begins to unfold around you, gently guiding you toward a world of dreams. Welcome to Pindlewood and Fable, where every visit is an invitation to rest, to dream, and to explore the comforting world of bedtime stories. One peaceful journey at a time. I invite you now to find your perfect resting place, just as you've walked into our little shop and have been welcomed by the warmth of the crackling fire. You're nestled into the large, old velvet armchair, soft and worn from years of comforting dreamers, just like you. The cushions hug your body as though they've been waiting just for you to snuggle deep into them. The chair feels like a cloud, and as you sink into it, you feel your body begin to relax gently, easily. Now let yourself settle. Let the weight of your body release as you sink deeper into the cushions, feeling the softness of the worn velvet underneath you, wrapping you in warmth and comfort. The soft blankets are draped over your lap and across your shoulders, their gentle weight adding to the sense of deep relaxation. The fire crackles softly nearby, filling the room with a soft golden glow. Notice how the blankets feel, so warm and inviting. They settle perfectly around you, as if each one were chosen just for you. Feel the softness of them against your skin, how it smooths out any remaining tension. And with every breath, feel the weight of the day slip away, leaving you lighter and more at ease. Now take a moment to check in with your body. How does it feel in this cozy space? Are your feet relaxed? Your legs resting gently? Let go of any tension in your knees, your thighs, your hips. Allow the chair to take all of your weight. Feel your body sink further and further. Breathe slowly and deeply. Let the air fill your lungs, and as you exhale, let go of any last bit of tightness in your body. There's no need to hold on to anything anymore. Feel the warmth of the fire, the gentle flicker of the flames, and how it softly caresses your skin. As you breathe, imagine that the warmth from the fire is spreading slowly through your body, from your toes all the way up to the top of your head. With each inhale, imagine you're drawing in that warmth, and with each exhale, feel yourself sinking deeper into the embrace of the chair, heavier and heavier. And as you settle further, imagine the soft blankets becoming just a little bit heavier, cocooning you in the most delicious comfort, wrapping you in a sense of safety and serenity. You're perfectly supported here and now. There's nowhere else you need to be, no rush, no expectations, just the sound of the crackling fire and the comfort of your cozy chair. Now take another deep breath, and as you exhale, allow your body to soften even further. Let go of any last remnants of tension, from your shoulders all the way down to your fingertips, your arms, your chest. With every breath, you feel the sense of heaviness and warmth deepen, as though you're sinking into the earth itself, perfectly grounded and safe. In this moment, there is nothing to do but rest, nothing to worry about. You are here now in this magical space, and you are ready for a journey into your dreams. The fire crackles softly beside you, and in the distance, the gentle murmur of the shopkeeper's voice begins. You're ready to hear the first words of your story, and you feel yourself drifting closer, deeper, into the warmth of your chair, the softness of your blankets, and the sweet comfort of the words that will soon guide you to sleep. As you rest in this place, know that each breath takes you deeper into a world of rest, relaxation, and gentle stories. You are safe, you are relaxed, and you are ready to drift into the softest of dreams. Isabelle stood by her window, the soft night air brushing her cheeks, carrying with it the faint scent of fresh grass and the earth after a warm day. The sky above was dark, stretching out in front of her like an endless canvas. As she gazed up, the stars sparkled like distant diamonds, their light twinkling softly against the black velvet of the night. She'd always loved the night sky, but tonight something felt different. The stars seemed to be calling to her, as if they were inviting her on a journey. Earlier that day, Izzy had visited the planetarium, a place she loved to go when she wanted to learn more about the universe. She'd watched a film about the solar system, marveling at the beauty of the planets and their moons, the shimmering light of distant stars, and the vastness of space. She'd listened to the narrator describe the wonders of the cosmos, the mysterious beauty of each planet, and the quiet calm that filled the space between them. It had been so captivating that when she left, the night sky felt even more magical than usual. The idea of leaving Earth behind, of soaring through the stars, had settled deeply in her heart. Now, standing at her window, Izzy closed her eyes and imagined what it would be like to leave Earth behind, to rise up into the sky and float weightlessly among the stars. The more she thought about it, the more real it seemed. She could almost feel the sensation of lifting off the ground, the gentle whoosh of air as she left everything behind. Her feet felt light, as if gravity itself had loosened its hold on her. She could imagine herself rising, slowly at first, her body weightless as she left behind the familiar comforts of home, soaring into the unknown. The air felt different up there, cooler, calmer, and somehow more peaceful. With every passing moment, Izzy drifted higher and higher, the sounds of the world below fading into nothingness. The busy hum of life on Earth, the clatter of cars and voices seemed so distant now. Up here, in this imagined space, there was nothing but quiet, just the stillness of the universe and the soft pulse of distant stars guiding her forward. As she floated, she imagined herself moving through the sky, leaving behind the clouds. They were wisps now, soft and billowy, as she passed through them with ease. The last traces of sunlight were fading, leaving only the deep blue of the twilight sky behind. In the quiet, she could almost hear the stars whispering, a soft melodic hum that seemed to echo through the vastness of space. It was as though they were speaking directly to her, telling her stories of the cosmos, of ancient stars that had long since burned out, and new ones that were just beginning to shine. The sky darkened as she rose, and the stars began to appear one by one. They twinkled softly, their light flickering like tiny candles scattered across the heavens. She marveled at how they looked, so far away yet so close, as though she could almost reach out and touch them. Each star had its own light, its own story, and she felt an overwhelming sense of wonder. How could something so far away feel so personal, so intimate? Izzy let herself drift a little further, the cool air brushing against her face, her body completely weightless now. The stars above her were no longer just dots of light in the sky. They were alive with energy, each one a living, breathing part of the universe. She felt a deep connection to them, a sense of belonging. Up here, among the stars, there was no need to hurry, no expectations, no pressure. She could simply be. She could exist in the moment, floating peacefully through space, letting the quiet beauty of the universe wash over her. For a while she stayed in that quiet place, suspended between the earth and the stars. The world below was distant now, a blur of green and blue, with only the faintest trace of light from the cities far below. Everything felt so calm. There was no rush. She could take as long as she needed, exploring, drifting, discovering the beauty of the universe at her own pace. She imagined the planets ahead of her, each one a stop along her journey. She pictured the brilliant reds and oranges of Mars, the cool blues of Neptune, and the swirling bands of Jupiter. But even though she could see them in her mind, she didn't feel the need to rush toward them. She was content simply to float, to be a part of the universe, to feel the peaceful embrace of space around her. It was a quiet kind of adventure, no race, no destination to hurry toward. Just the freedom to explore at her own pace, to be surrounded by the infinite beauty of the cosmos. The stars seemed to invite her further, beckoning her to come closer, to learn their secrets. But for now, Izzy was content to listen, to let their quiet whispers fill her with wonder. There would be time for the planets later. For now, she was exactly where she needed to be, floating peacefully through the stars, part of something much bigger than herself. As she continued her journey through the stars, she noticed how each one shone brighter than the last, as if the universe itself was smiling down at her. There was a peacefulness here that she had never known before, a calm that seemed to wrap itself around her heart, quieting all her thoughts. The earth, with its busy streets and bustling crowds, felt like a distant memory now. Up here, in the quiet vastness of space, there was nothing but peace, and it felt just right. For Isabelle, the stars had become more than just lights in the sky. They were her companions, her guides, and as she drifted further into the night, she felt a sense of calm settling within her. The universe had opened its arms to her, offering her a space to breathe, to think, and to simply exist. In the quiet of space, there was no need to rush. There was only the gentle pull of the stars, a slow, steady guide leading her deeper into the cosmos. And so, with a peaceful heart, Izzy let herself drift. The journey had just begun, and already she knew that she would be forever changed by the quiet beauty of the stars. Izzy felt a gentle shift, as though the very air around her was pulling her onward. She wasn't falling, not exactly, but there was a sense of movement, of release. For a moment, she simply floated in the stillness, suspended between Earth and the vastness of space, the twinkling stars above her, the only company she needed. The world beneath her, her home, her familiar streets, the places she had visited every day, was beginning to seem distant. Below her, the curve of the earth was slowly becoming more pronounced, the blues and greens of the oceans and land masses blending into a soft blur as she drifted further away. She could see the soft, wispy clouds that had once surrounded her, now far below, like a white blanket stretching across the surface of the planet. They looked almost unreal, like cotton candy, glowing faintly in the light of the moon. Izzy took a deep breath, feeling the air shift around her. The crispness of it felt invigorating, as if each breath was a tiny moment of discovery. Here, in the void of space, there were no sounds except the quiet rhythm of her own heart and the faint hum of the stars. There was no noise, no rushing traffic, or the distant murmur of voices. All was quiet, and yet she didn't feel lonely. There was something profoundly peaceful about being here, suspended between two worlds, without the distractions of everyday life. As she continued her ascent, the once familiar blue sky darkened to a deeper shade, taking on a richness that only the vastness of space could provide. She could feel the air thinning as she passed the boundary where the atmosphere began to fade away into the infinite expanse. The gentle pull of gravity, which had always kept her feet firmly planted on the ground, seemed to loosen with every moment that passed. It was as if the earth was no longer holding her in its embrace, but instead she was being welcomed by the cosmos, invited to become part of something much larger than herself. In the distance, Izzy could see the faint outline of the moon, hanging low on the horizon. It was impossibly beautiful, bathed in a soft, ethereal glow. The craters of the moon stood out in sharp contrast to its bright surface, casting delicate shadows in the light of distant stars. It looked like something from a dream, so close and yet so far away. Izzy had always admired the moon, but tonight it felt like a companion, watching over her as she journeyed into the great unknown. The stars grew brighter the further she traveled, their light becoming more intense, more real, as if they were calling out to her. She marveled at the way they glittered against the black velvet of the sky, their light dancing in all directions, filling the space around her with their brilliance. It was a light that seemed to come from within them, a light that didn't just illuminate the space around her, but filled her with warmth and wonder. She felt a connection to them, an understanding, as though she too was a small part of the same grand cosmic tapestry. Looking back down at the earth, Izzy could see the land masses below her, now fading into the dark. The seas that once seemed so vast and endless were now only faint swirls of color beneath her, as though they were being gently swallowed by the vastness of space. The cities, with their tiny lights blinking like stars themselves, were becoming less and less distinct, blurring into the horizon until they disappeared altogether. In their place was the boundless expanse of space, stretching out in every direction, filled with galaxies, nebulae, and distant stars. It was almost impossible to comprehend the scale of it all, how much space there was, how many stars, how many worlds existed in the dark corners of the universe. The enormity of it made Izzy feel both incredibly small and deeply connected, as if she were part of something far greater than she could ever fully understand. As she moved deeper into space, she could sense the stillness of it all. There were no wind gusts or weather patterns, no rustling trees or rustling leaves. Space was filled with a quiet that felt almost sacred, a quiet that Izzy wanted to hold on to. The silence was not empty, though. It was full of possibility, of wonder, of everything that had yet to be discovered. Izzy took another deep breath, feeling the air, so cold and fresh, so different from anything she had ever experienced on Earth. It was a breath that carried with it a sense of freedom, a release from all the noise and clatter of the world below. It was the kind of freedom that only space could offer, the freedom to simply exist, without expectations or obligations, without the rush of time. She let herself drift for a moment, just letting the quiet and the beauty of the universe settle around her. The stars were no longer just distant lights. They were part of her journey now, each one a milestone on her way through the cosmos. And even though she couldn't touch them, couldn't reach out and grab them, they felt closer now, closer than they ever had before. As Izzy drifted further away from Earth, she realized that she wasn't alone in the universe. She was surrounded by the countless stars, planets, and moons that filled the vastness of space. Each one had its own story, its own history. And though they were all so far apart in a way, they were all connected, part of the same cosmic dance, the same vast, endless universe. And here, among them, Izzy was just one small part of it all. She smiled softly to herself. The journey had only just begun, and already she felt a deep sense of peace. There was no need to rush, no need to hurry. She had all the time in the universe, it seemed. So for now, she allowed herself to float, to take in the beauty around her, and to savor the quiet moments that came with being so far from home. The further Izzy traveled into space, the more she felt like she was entering a world that existed on a different plane entirely. The stars around her, while still a comforting presence, seemed to fade into the background as she began to pass through a truly extraordinary part of her journey, the asteroid belt. The space ahead of her shimmered with tiny, glittering specks. She could see them now, floating rocks, ranging in size from small pebbles to massive boulders, all suspended in the cold emptiness of the cosmos. Some were close enough that Izzy could make out their rough surfaces, jagged edges that glinted in the light of distant stars. Others were far off, appearing as faint dots, barely visible against the vast blackness. For a moment, Izzy marveled at the sight of it. The asteroid belt, the zone that had always seemed so mysterious and far off, was right before her, an endless stretch of rocky debris suspended in the void. It was as if she were flying through a cosmic field of fragments, pieces of a distant past, remnants of ancient worlds. This debris, Izzy thought, was like the scattered pages of an old book, fragments of something once whole, now spread out for eternity. The asteroid belt was vast, much larger than Izzy had imagined. As she drifted through it, she felt a sense of awe, the sheer scale of the space around her settling in. The belt itself was far more than just a collection of rocks. It was a reminder of the immense power of space and time. The asteroids were pieces of a broken planet, left over from a distant collision that occurred billions of years ago when the solar system was young. Izzy floated serenely among the asteroids, her path weaving gently between them. There was no rush. There was only the quiet hum of the stars and the soft, rhythmic sound of her own breathing. She was moving in sync with the universe, her body weightless and free. She could feel the cold of space all around her, yet it wasn't an uncomfortable cold. It was the kind of cold that felt expansive, cleansing, almost refreshing, as if she were being immersed in the very essence of the universe. As she drifted, Izzy could almost imagine that she was passing through a cosmic maze, with each asteroid being a waypoint, guiding her on her journey. They weren't obstacles, they were beacons. She could see the way the light from the distant stars danced off their surfaces, casting long, delicate shadows that shifted as the asteroids slowly spun in space. Each asteroid had its own story, its own path, but they all shared the same quiet journey through the cosmos, moving along their orbits in perfect harmony. The belt wasn't as chaotic as Izzy had once imagined. There were no collisions, no rushing masses of debris hurtling through space at dangerous speeds. Instead, the asteroids moved in gentle, predictable arcs, following the gravity of the sun, each one maintaining its own pace, its own rhythm. It was almost like a dance, a slow, graceful waltz between the stars. As she continued her flight, Izzy found herself growing increasingly fascinated by the way the light played off the surfaces of the asteroids. Some of them were completely dark, their surfaces too distant from the sun to reflect any light. Others, though, glowed with a soft, silvery hue, as though they were catching just enough starlight to shimmer in the darkness. The sight was mesmerizing, and Izzy felt as though she could float among them forever, lost in their quiet dance. She passed close to one particularly large asteroid, its surface pocked with craters and scars from countless collisions over the ages. For a moment, Izzy imagined what it would be like to land on its surface, to step out and stand in the vast silence, gazing out at the stars that filled the space around her. The thought made her feel small, yet strangely at peace. To be on an asteroid, all alone in the cosmos, surrounded by the endless expanse of space. It seemed like the ultimate solitude, the kind of peaceful solitude she had always longed for. But as she drifted past the asteroid, the moment passed as quickly as it had come. There was no need to land, no need to step off and explore. Izzy was perfectly content to continue her journey, floating through the asteroid belt, watching the light dance off the rocks and letting the calmness of the moment settle over her. She knew that the journey would take her far beyond the belt. She had so much more to see. But for now, she allowed herself to be fully present in this moment, this peaceful, endless expanse of stars and asteroids. Time seemed to stretch out as she moved through it, the minutes and hours becoming irrelevant in the vastness of space. The deeper she went into the belt, the more isolated she felt. But it wasn't a lonely isolation. It was a peaceful kind of solitude, the kind that filled her with a sense of belonging in the universe. She could almost feel the presence of the stars around her, the distant planets, and even the sun itself. It was as if space had become a living, breathing entity, and she was a part of it, a small but essential part of the greater whole. As Izzy floated gently onward, she turned her gaze toward the distant planets, knowing that her journey would soon take her beyond the asteroid belt, past the outer planets, and into the far reaches of the solar system. But for now, she was content. She was here, in the midst of this vast, beautiful, endless space, and that was enough. After gliding through the tranquil asteroid belt, Izzy felt a shift in the energy around her. The space seemed to stretch out even further, as though the universe were drawing her in, preparing her for what was to come. She could feel her journey taking on new intensity, a deepening sense of purpose with each passing moment. Ahead of her, she saw the faintest glimmer of light, far off in the distance, a sign that she was nearing one of the most magnificent planets in the solar system. Izzy knew she was approaching Jupiter, the giant that ruled the outer solar system, the planet that loomed larger than anything she had yet encountered. The sight of Jupiter's immense size sent a shiver of wonder through her. Its presence in the sky was overwhelming, yet it filled her with a sense of awe and reverence. As she drew closer, its swirling clouds and distinctive red spot became more defined, revealing the planet's dynamic atmosphere and its swirling storm systems. The closer Izzy flew, the more she could see the many layers of Jupiter's atmosphere. Its upper clouds, tinged in hues of cream and brown, stretched across the planet's surface like wisps of cotton candy. These clouds seemed to move and shift, continuously swirling in great bands across the gas giant. The motion was hypnotic, each cloud mass drifting effortlessly, as though Jupiter itself was breathing slowly, its atmosphere ebbing and flowing in a way that felt alive. Izzy felt her heart race in wonder. Jupiter, with its majestic cloud layers, seemed endless, a vast ocean of gas and storms that stretched as far as the eye could see. She flew closer, and the planet's great red spot came into focus, a swirling storm that had been raging for centuries. It was like a cosmic whirlpool, its spirals turning with such force that Izzy could almost feel the energy pulsing from it, even from this distance. She marveled at the sight. It was like a vast living thing, a storm system so massive that Earth itself could fit inside it. The spot itself was a striking red, deep and rich, with tendrils of white clouds swirling around it, forming intricate patterns as the storm turned. There was something both intimidating and beautiful about it, and Izzy could not tear her gaze away from the massive storm. It felt like a glimpse into the raw power of the universe, a reminder of the forces at work in the cosmos, forces that were beyond her comprehension, yet somehow familiar, like a distant heartbeat in the quiet expanse of space. She continued her path around Jupiter, her eyes tracing the thick bands of clouds that circled the planet. These bands, alternately dark and light, seemed to stretch endlessly around the planet's surface, creating a striped pattern that gave the planet a unique and almost regal appearance. The colors shifted as the planet rotated, creating ever-changing patterns of red, orange, and white. Izzy felt like she was flying through an ancient tapestry, one that had been woven over millions of years, with each thread of cloud telling a part of the planet's history. Jupiter's sheer size, however, was the most striking feature. She could feel the immense gravitational pull from the planet as she drifted closer, as though it were drawing her in. She was still far away, but the planet's size was hard to ignore. It loomed larger than anything she had ever seen, like a king of the heavens, surrounded by its many moons, each one orbiting it in perfect harmony. Izzy was mesmerized by the way these moons danced around the gas giant, their orbits steady and sure. She could see some of them as tiny dots against the vastness of the planet, while others, like the large moon Ganymede, were visible as clear, bright orbs reflecting the light of the distant sun. Izzy wondered about these moons, each one unique and different. Some were icy, some rocky, and others were covered in layers of mystery unknown to human eyes. She imagined what it would be like to stand on one of Jupiter's moons, looking up at the great planet overhead, its swirling clouds casting shadows over the moon's surface. It seemed almost magical, like stepping into another world, another time, where everything was in perfect balance. But even from her place in space, Izzy could sense that Jupiter's moons were not static. They were alive, constantly changing, orbiting and shifting in response to the great gravitational force of their parent planet. As Izzy continued to fly closer to Jupiter, the weight of the planet's presence began to settle on her. It was as though she were experiencing the full might of its gravity, pulling at her, calling her to come closer, but she resisted, not out of fear, but out of respect for the planet. She knew she was merely an observer, a witness to something far greater than herself. Jupiter's surface appeared to be infinite, a swirling, ever-changing expanse that never stayed the same. Izzy realized that there would never be a way to fully understand the planet, for it was as elusive as the wind, always shifting, always moving. There was no way to grasp its enormity, its power, its beauty. It was something that had to be experienced in person, in the quiet, infinite stillness of space, where time and distance became irrelevant. As Izzy drifted away from the planet, she turned to take one last look at Jupiter's vast, beautiful surface. The swirling clouds, the ever-turning storm at its heart, the faint outline of its moons, all of it was a sight she would never forget. She had witnessed something extraordinary, a moment she would carry with her for the rest of her journey through space. Jupiter had shared its mystery with her, and now, with a deep breath, Izzy prepared herself to continue onward, to explore the rest of the solar system and see what other wonders awaited her. Izzy had already seen some of the most remarkable features of the universe, but there was something uniquely enchanting about Saturn. As she drifted through the endlessness of space, she felt her pulse quicken as the gas giant came into view, its luminous presence growing ever larger in the distance. Her heart swelled with awe as she realized she was about to get an up-close view of the planet's most famous and beautiful feature, its rings. The sight of Saturn's rings was nothing short of breathtaking. From afar, they shimmered like delicate strands of pearls floating in the blackness of space, their icy and rocky particles reflecting the distant light of the sun. The rings were almost ethereal, as if they were made of stardust and ancient memories, tracing the outline of the planet with their graceful arcs. It was hard to believe that something so grand and beautiful could be composed of countless tiny particles, each one moving at its own pace, yet all of them in perfect harmony. It was as though the rings were alive, each particle a note in the grand symphony of the cosmos. As Izzy approached the planet, the rings seemed to grow larger and more intricate. The icy particles within them sparkled like diamonds, their movements synchronized with the rhythm of the universe. The rings were far more complex than Izzy had imagined. She had read about them in books and seen images of them in the planetarium, but nothing prepared her for their majesty in person. The way they curved around Saturn, separated into multiple bands of light and dark, gave the planet a sense of elegance and grace, as if it were a dancer performing in the silence of space. The rings appeared to be made up of many layers, each one with its own distinct color and texture. Some were almost translucent, like sheets of thin ice, while others were more solid and dense, reflecting the sunlight in brilliant streaks of white and gold. There were dark gaps between the bands, where the rings seemed to break apart for a moment, before reforming and continuing on their graceful path around the planet. Izzy could almost hear the faint hum of the particles as they moved, each one following its orbit with precision. She had always wondered how these rings came to be. How could something so beautiful exist in the vastness of space? Scientists believed that the rings were made up of debris from comets, moons, or asteroids that had been shattered by Saturn's immense gravity. Yet looking at the rings now, Izzy felt as though they were much more than just a collection of icy rocks and dust. They were a work of art, a cosmic painting crafted over eons, telling the story of Saturn's past, its collisions, its formations, and its countless interactions with the universe around it. Izzy felt as though she were floating through a dream as she passed through the rings, slowly and carefully. It was as though the rings themselves were guiding her on her journey, each sparkling shard of ice beckoning her forward, urging her to keep going. The delicate balance between the rings and the planet beneath them was mesmerizing, and for a moment, Izzy could almost forget where she was, completely lost in the beauty of the scene. She gazed in awe at the way the rings wrapped around Saturn, their vastness almost impossible to comprehend. From the distance, the rings had seemed so delicate and distant, but now, as Izzy passed through them, she could see their intricacies, each small ice particle moving along its own orbit, each piece contributing to the greater whole. The sheer scale of it was staggering. Saturn's rings weren't just a pretty decoration around the planet. They were an essential part of its identity, a feature that made Saturn unlike any other planet in the solar system. They were a masterpiece of cosmic design, a symbol of the beauty and complexity of the universe. Izzy couldn't help but feel small in the face of such grandeur. Even though she was flying through space, an explorer of the cosmos, she realized that the universe was far more immense and mysterious than she could ever imagine. Saturn, with its rings, seemed to symbolize that vastness, the infinite possibilities that existed beyond her journey. No matter how far she traveled or how much she learned, The universe would always have more to offer, more secrets to share, more wonders to uncover. For a moment, Izzy closed her eyes and let the experience wash over her. The sight of Saturn's rings, the way the particles glinted in the sunlight, the sensation of floating gently between them. It was all so peaceful, so surreal. She could feel her breath slow as the calmness of the scene took hold of her. It was the kind of peace that only space could provide, a quiet serenity that filled her with a sense of contentment and stillness. As she continued to pass through Saturn's rings, Izzy took one last look at the shimmering particles before her. The rings seemed to stretch out endlessly before her, their delicate beauty filling her heart with joy. She knew that this moment, this peaceful passage through Saturn's rings, would stay with her forever. It was a reminder of the grandeur of the universe and the small, delicate moments of serenity that could be found within it. And as the rings began to fade into the distance and the planet itself loomed large before her, Izzy felt a gentle pull forward, beckoning her to continue her journey. The universe was vast, and there was still much more to explore. She was ready to move on, but she would always carry the beauty of Saturn's rings with her, a memory of a quiet, peaceful moment in the cosmos that she would never forget. As Izzy continued her journey through the stars, the night sky seemed to stretch on endlessly, revealing the mysteries of the outer solar system. Her next destination was a bit more distant, a place where the darkness of space deepened and the stars grew more scattered in their light. She could feel the anticipation building as she approached the icy giants, Uranus and Neptune, two planets that, while far from the sun, held their own quiet majesty in the vast expanse of space. First came Uranus, the pale blue planet with its distinctive tilted axis, spinning almost on its side like a spinning top. From a distance it looked like a serene jewel floating in the blackness, its soft blue hue radiating a calm and cool energy. Izzy had always been fascinated by Uranus, its strange rotation, its cold and distant presence in the outer reaches of the solar system. It felt like a place untouched by the sun's warmth, a world bathed in the cool glow of distant stars. As she drifted closer to Uranus, Izzy marveled at how the planet seemed to hang suspended in the quiet void. Its rings were faint and subtle compared to Saturn's, but still noticeable. A thin band of icy particles that circled the planet in a delicate arc. She had read that Uranus was surrounded by a complex system of moons too, though many of them were tiny and invisible to the naked eye. Still, she could imagine them, hidden in the shadows of this distant planet, orbiting in the quiet silence of space. The planet itself was a beautiful pale turquoise, the color of the planet's icy atmosphere, reflecting the faint light from the sun. The more Izzy gazed at it, the more she felt as though she were witnessing something otherworldly, as if Uranus was from a dream, a place that didn't quite belong to the solar system, but had found its home there nonetheless. The planet's strange tilt, its axis tilted at a dramatic angle, gave it a peculiar, otherworldly aura, as though it had a story to tell, one of cosmic upheaval and ancient collisions. There was something profoundly peaceful about Uranus, Unlike the fiery, dynamic worlds closer to the sun, Uranus seemed to exude calm, a frozen beauty born from the isolation of its orbit. The planet's coldness felt like a balm to Isabelle's spirit, as if it were offering her a quiet sanctuary in the chaos of space. She couldn't help but feel a deep sense of awe as she passed by, gently gliding through the darkness, taking in the sight of the icy world in all its stillness. As she continued her way, the faint glow of Uranus faded into the distance, and soon the deep blue of Neptune began to fill her view. If Uranus was a serene, distant dream, Neptune was the passionate counterpart, fierce, cold, and full of mystery. Its deep blue atmosphere seemed to pulse with energy, and Izzy could almost feel the planet's intensity, its winds that reached speeds of over 1,000 miles per hour, shaping the atmosphere into violent storms and swirling clouds. Unlike the pale hues of Uranus, Neptune was a vibrant, striking blue, like the color of the deepest ocean, and as Izzy approached, she could see the planet's featureless surface slowly transforming, revealing subtle details of its swirling atmosphere. The planet had a kind of majesty that made her heart race, an untamed beauty that reminded her of the forces of nature on Earth. The winds of Neptune, so fierce and unstoppable, reminded Izzy of the power that existed even in the most distant parts of the solar system. It was a place where the elements were free to express themselves without restraint, a place of raw cosmic energy. And yet, even though Neptune was known for its violent storms and powerful winds, it had a serene quality as well. The planet exuded a sense of quiet mystery, as though it was holding secrets of the universe deep within its swirling clouds. It was the kind of beauty that didn't immediately reveal itself. It wasn't a beauty that shouted for attention, but rather one that invited you in, like the deep silence of a forest or the stillness of the ocean at night. Izzy felt like she was witnessing a delicate balance, Neptune's powerful winds and its calm, quiet beauty existing side by side, like two forces working together in harmony. The planet seemed to embody the duality of the universe, its tumultuous energy and its peaceful stillness, both essential to its identity. She couldn't help but wonder about the mysteries Neptune held, the secrets hidden beneath its atmosphere, waiting to be uncovered by the next traveler brave enough to explore its depths. As she passed by Neptune, she felt the pull of its presence, the way it seemed to call her forward into the unknown. It was a place of great wonder, a place that felt both familiar and completely alien. The deep blue of the planet, its swirling clouds, and its sense of mystery all seemed to fill Izzy with a sense of awe and reverence for the universe. Neptune was a reminder that there was so much more to discover, so much beauty, so much power, and so much wonder waiting to be uncovered beyond the stars. The more Izzy floated past the ice giants, the more she felt the quiet vastness of space, the vastness that stretched between these distant worlds. There was something so humbling about being in the presence of these giants, their size and power so far beyond what she could ever truly comprehend. It made her realize just how small she was in the grand scheme of things. But in a way, it also made her feel connected to the universe. These planets, so far from home, were part of the same cosmos that she was part of. They were all linked together in a cosmic dance, each orbiting their own path, each contributing to the greater whole. As the final icy giant receded into the distance, Izzy felt a deep sense of gratitude. Her journey through the outer reaches of the solar system, from Uranus to Neptune, had filled her with awe. It was a reminder that even the most distant, mysterious parts of the universe had their own beauty, their own story to tell. And now, with these two planets behind her, she felt ready to continue toward the next chapter of her cosmic adventure. After the icy giants of Uranus and Neptune had faded into the distance, Izzy felt a soft pull, a gentle tinge of anticipation, as though the stars themselves were guiding her onward. Her journey through the outer reaches of the solar system had been an extraordinary adventure, a voyage to places so far beyond her comprehension that they seemed more like dreams than realities. Yet now, as she began her journey back toward the warmth of the sun, there was a sense of calm that settled within her, a feeling that she had experienced something truly unique, something that few could ever say they had done. She had ventured into the vastness of space, exploring planets and worlds that only existed in the furthest reaches of the imagination. As she turned toward Earth, she found herself retracing the path that had brought her this far, moving inward toward the familiar, toward the home she knew so well. The stars seemed to part for her, as if they were opening a path, guiding her gently back to her planet. Space itself, in all its infinite vastness, seemed to take on a tender quality, as though the universe were cradling her in its arms, sending her home after a journey of wonder. Izzy could feel the quiet pulse of the stars, their light shimmering against the black expanse of space. She had passed through a world of ice and distance, and now, as she journeyed closer to her destination, she could sense the warmth returning. She wasn't quite back yet, but the change was palpable. There was a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a gentle transition from the cold, distant beauty of the outer planets to the familiar warmth of the inner solar system. Her path was bringing her closer to the sun, and she could feel the embrace of that warmth in the form of the glowing light that stretched ahead. As she glided through the void, she allowed herself to reflect on all that she had witnessed. The planets, the moons, the distant stars, each had played a part in her cosmic journey. Each had added its own piece to the grand puzzle of the universe. It wasn't just the places she had visited that filled her heart with wonder, but the feeling of being a part of something so much larger than herself. The beauty of space wasn't just in the planets or the stars. It was in the way everything was interconnected, in the way that every piece of the universe, no matter how distant, was linked together in harmony. It was the realization that even the most distant worlds were part of her journey, part of her experience. Isabelle's path now took her past the gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars, planets she had marveled at from afar and longed to learn more about. She passed Jupiter, the massive planet with its swirling great red spot, the storms raging on its surface. She felt a small smile tug at the corners of her lips as she thought of how magnificent it must be to witness the grandeur of that planet up close. Its atmosphere, thick with clouds and gas, was a chaotic storm of movement, yet there was a strange serenity to the planet's presence. It had a kind of quiet authority, as though it held a place of leadership in the solar system, its immense gravity protecting the planets closest to the sun from the chaos of space. Saturn, with its iconic rings, followed next. Izzy had always admired Saturn from Earth, its rings so delicate and beautiful, like something from a dream. Now, as she passed by, she marveled at their ethereal quality, the way they seemed to shimmer in the darkness. The icy rings of Saturn stretched out in every direction, a glimmering arc of frozen particles that surrounded the planet like a halo. It felt like a secret, something beautiful and fragile, suspended in the coldness of space. And then there was Mars, the red planet, so familiar to Earth's inhabitants, so full of mystery and promise. Izzy had always dreamed of what it would be like to set foot on Mars, to explore its rusty terrain and uncover its secrets. As she passed by, she could almost hear the echoes of those who had dreamed of reaching this world, of making it a new home for humanity. There was a beauty in Mars too, a stark, quiet beauty, one that spoke to the resilience of life, to the possibilities of the future. It was a place of hope and mystery, a planet that would continue to captivate the human imagination for generations to come. Now, as she passed through the asteroid belt, a place where thousands of small worlds spun around the sun in a delicate dance, Izzy could feel the pull of Earth growing stronger. It wasn't just the warmth of the planet, though that was certainly comforting. It was the sense of home that made her heart beat just a little faster. Earth was where she had started her journey, and it was where she would always return. No matter how far she traveled, no matter how many planets she explored, Earth was her anchor. It was the place that connected everything. And finally, there it was, Earth, in all its beauty, floating peacefully in the vastness of space. From this distance, the planet looked like a tiny jewel, suspended in the void, glowing with the light of the sun. Izzy could see the swirls of clouds, the deep blues of the oceans, and the greens and browns of the continents. It was her home, a place she had longed for during her journey, but one that felt even more precious now that she had seen the vastness of space up close. As she descended through the layers of the atmosphere, the warmth of the planet seemed to wrap around her like a gentle embrace. The world below, with its oceans, mountains, and cities, was a reminder of all that she had experienced on her journey, and all that she had yet to explore. Space, with all its vastness, was a place of infinite possibilities. But Earth, with its beauty and its life, was where she belonged. Izzy let out a soft sigh of contentment as she floated down, her journey through the stars coming to an end. She had ventured far and wide, visited distant planets, and experienced the wonders of the universe. But now, as she drifted back toward Earth, she felt a profound sense of peace. The stars above, the planets she had visited, and the journey she had taken all felt like a beautiful memory, one she would carry with her always. And as she finally settled back into the familiar embrace of her home, she closed her eyes, knowing that the universe was vast and her place in it was both small and infinitely precious. And with that thought, Izzy drifted into a peaceful sleep, the stars above watching over her as she dreamt of her next adventure.